from a whale to bounty hunters, from giants to snowy mountains, and from the desert to civil war. Let's recap everything from One Piece Alabasta Saga. The journey continues as the Straw Hat Pirates slide down Reverse Mountain into the Grand Line. A thick fog surrounds them. Zoro hears a strange sound, but Nami says it's just the wind. Sanji sees a mountain ahead, but when the fog clears, it's actually a giant whale. At their speed, they're about to crash. Zoro tells them to steer left, but Usopp reminds everyone the helm is broken. Zoro runs to help while Luffy goes below deck with an idea. Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji try to pull the helm, but it won't move. Right before they hit the whale, Luffy fires a cannon. The ship slows but still hits the whale. Only the figurehead breaks, angering Luffy. The whale doesn't react. Zoro tells everyone to escape while it still ignores them. As they pass its eye, Luffy punches it in anger. The whale finally notices and sucks in the water, and the Straw Hats, with Luffy barely holding onto a tooth. He climbs on top as his crew is swallowed. On the whale, Luffy yells for his friends to be released, but it dives. He sees a door on its back. Inside, the crew lands on a small island with a fake blue sky. A giant squid appears, but something on the island kills it instantly. Nami wants to go home, and Usopp wishes Luffy was there. They both worry about him. Meanwhile, Luffy wanders lost through a strange passage. An old man steps out of a house, drags the squid, sits, and reads the newspaper. Sanji yells at him, and Usopp threatens him. Calmly, the old man says someone would die if they fought. Sanji is annoyed. Zoro tries politeness. The man introduces himself, Crocus, keeper of the Twin Capes lighthouse. Usopp asks if they're really inside a whale. Nami panics about being digested. Crocus strikes another dramatic pose, but the crew tells him to stop. He points out a strange door in the sky, revealing the surroundings are painted. Crocus proudly admits he painted it for fun. Suddenly, the island shakes. Nami notices it's iron and chained down. Crocus explains Laboon, the whale, is ramming the red line again. Nami remembers his scars and cries. She and Usopp even think Crocus wants to kill the whale. Zoro says they should leave before the ship dissolves. Elsewhere, Mr. 9 and Miss Wednesday sneak around with guns. The Straw Hats try to escape, but the waves are strong. Crocus dives and swims away. Luffy falls in a slanted tunnel inside the whale. The intruders plan to kill Crocus for the whale. Crocus climbs back inside the whale. Before they can act, Luffy falls from above and knocks them into digestive juice. Crocus reaches a hidden area, injects the whale with sedative, and calms it. The Straw Hats rescue Luffy and the intruders. Crocus warns them not to harm Laboon. They fire bazookas, but Crocus blocks the blast. They claim the town needs Laboon's meat, until Luffy knocks them out with one punch. Crocus thanks Luffy, who says he just didn't want harm to happen. Nami asks who the intruders were. Crocus explains they wanted Laboon's meat to feed their town for years. Laboon is an island whale from West Blue, largest of its kind, and keeps ramming the red line because he has a human-like heart and waits 50 years for a pirate crew. Crocus tells Laboon's story. 50 years ago, the Rumbar pirates entered the Grand Line with the young whale following them. Crocus befriended them, and they asked him to care for Laboon, promising to return in 3 years. Laboon agreed to wait no matter what. The Straw Hats understand Laboon's pain. Crocus, a doctor, treats Laboon's wounds from inside. Luffy asks him to join the crew, but he refuses. He guides them out through a tunnel. Crocus believes the Rumbar pirates abandoned Laboon. The crew wonders why he never told the whale. Crocus says Laboon wouldn't listen, but he won't abandon him. Luffy breaks the ship's mast and challenges Laboon. They fight until Luffy declares a draw. He calls Laboon his rival and promises a rematch after their journey, painting a Jolly Roger on the whale's face. Mr. 9 and Miss Wednesday escape but drop their log pose, which Luffy picks up. They return to their boss, but Mr. 13 and Miss Friday drop a bomb on them. Nami learns normal compasses don't work on the Grand Line. Crocus explains the log pose records Island's magnetic fields and eventually leads to Laugh Tale. Usopp asks about the One Piece. Crocus says only Goldie, Roger, reached it. Luffy says they'll see when they get there. Luffy eats all the food, so Sanji kicks him. The log pose breaks. Nami kicks both of them. Crocus offers his own log pose as thanks. Laboon spits out Luffy, Sanji, Mr. 9, and Miss Wednesday. The intruders ask to travel to Whisky Peak. Crocus wants the Straw Hats to leave them, but Luffy agrees to take them home. The Straw Hats sail toward Whisky Peak. Nami notices the Grand Line's wild weather and guides the crew back on course. At Whisky Peak, the intruders swim ashore. Nami warns no one can leave until the log pose resets. The townspeople warmly welcome the Straw Hats, surprising them. Nami and Zoro join a drinking contest. Sanji charms local women, Usopp boasts, and Luffy eats nonstop. Nami wins. After the party, Igaram reveals the townspeople are bounty hunters aiming to capture the Straw Hats. Zoro knew from the start and fights them, causing chaos as hunters hit each other. Mr. 8 orders an attack, but Zoro easily overpowers them, dodging bullets, explosions, and odd attacks. Inside a bar, Nami wakes sober, realizing the town is a trap. Zoro keeps fighting waves of hunters, showing off his swords. Miss Monday briefly overpowers him, but he defeats her with one hand. Agents explain their ranking system. Mr. 8 says Marines mistakenly think Zoro is the Straw Hat's captain. Miss Wednesday, Mr. 9, and Mr. 8 attack him, but Zoro outmaneuvers them. Chaos escalates when Miss Wednesday threatens sleeping Luffy. Zoro drags Mr. 9 into danger, sending all three flying. Far away, the Unluckies arrive just as Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine show up. Instead of helping their fellow agents, they blow them up. Mr. 9 thanks them, thinking they came to assist, but they reveal their true mission: eliminate the agents who know too much, especially Miss Wednesday, who is actually Princess Nefertari Vivi of Alabasta. Igaram, revealed to be the captain of Alabasta's royal guard, attacks Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine to protect Vivi. But the two Baroque Works officers easily withstand the assault. Smoke fills the air as Mr. 5 fires a deadly explosive attack that knocks Igaram down. Vivi cries out for him. Zoro drags the still sleeping Luffy away from the danger. Igaram, barely conscious, begs Vivi to escape for the sake of Alabasta. Furious, Vivi prepares to fight, but Mr. 9 steps in, telling her to run while he buys time. He attacks with acrobatics but is instantly blown away by one of Mr. 5's explosive boogers. Vivi is horrified. Zoro watches from above, confused. Igaram grabs Zoro's leg and begs him to protect Vivi, promising a reward. Zoro refuses since they had tried to kill him earlier. Then Nami appears, having overheard everything. The moment she hears the word reward, she demands 1 billion berries to protect Vivi. Igaram says he can't promise that, but Nami pressures him until he says they can negotiate with Vivi later. She orders Zoro to help, even though he doesn't want to. After a frustrating argument, Zoro reluctantly sets off. Nami reminds Zoro about the money he owes her, which angers him even more, but he still goes after Vivi. Nami comforts Igaram by assuring him that Zoro is strong enough to protect her. Vivi and Karoo try to escape to the ships. Luffy, still bloated from eating, wakes up in a river, sees the destruction from Zoro's fight, and staggers onward. Vivi is soon blocked by Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine again. Miss Monday appears and tells Vivi which road leads to the ships. She decides to stay behind and hold off the assassins. Vivi hesitates, but Miss Monday tells her to go, otherwise everyone's sacrifices would be wasted. Vivi thanks her and flees. Miss Monday bravely confronts Mr. 5 but is brutally defeated in an explosion. Vivi stops running when she hears it and stares in horror at the flames. Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine explain their devil fruit powers and say Vivi has no chance. Just as Mr. 5 prepares to finish her, Zoro blocks attacks and tells Miss Wednesday to stop panicking. Meanwhile, Nami keeps questioning Igaram about Baroque Works. He explains it's a secret criminal organization focused on sabotage, assassination, and bounty hunting. Higher-ranked agents get more power. Miss Valentine guesses that Zoro defeated all the bounty hunters in Whisky Peak. Mr. 5 wonders why he would protect Vivi. Zoro simply says he has his own reasons, and Mr. 5 replies they will have to kill him for interfering. Zoro and Mr. 5 are about to fight when an angry shout stops them. Luffy has arrived. Vivi is confused, and Zoro says he can handle the enemies alone, but instead of helping, Luffy starts yelling at Zoro. He thinks Zoro attacked innocent people because the townsfolk tricked him earlier. Zoro tries to explain, but Luffy refuses to listen and challenges him. Zoro keeps trying to talk, but Luffy charges at him. Zoro dodges and tells him to calm down. Miss Valentine and Mr. 5 decide to focus on their mission to kill Vivi, but Zoro kicks the bloated Luffy straight into them, sending all three flying. Annoyed, Mr. 5 says he will kill both Zoro and Luffy. He attacks Luffy while Zoro and Vivi watch. Miss Valentine floats into the air to attack Zoro and Vivi next. Vivi panics and tells Zoro to run, but he ignores her. Suddenly, Luffy walks out of the smoke. He has digested all his food and is dragging a beaten, bloodied Mr. 5 behind him. Vivi is shocked that Luffy defeated such a strong enemy so easily. Luffy turns back to Zoro, still refusing to believe him. Miss Valentine gets irritated that they keep ignoring her while she floats above. Zoro finally gives up trying to explain. He dodges Miss Valentine's attack and prepares to fight Luffy. Vivi watches in disbelief as they launch powerful attacks. Both smash into walls but burst out quickly and keep fighting. Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine complain the pirates are making fun of Baroque Works. They charge in, but Luffy and Zoro knock them out instantly for getting in the way. With the enemy agents defeated, Luffy and Zoro get ready to continue their own fight, until Nami appears and knocks both of them out cold. Luffy finally understands what really happened in Whisky Peak. Nami then demands that Vivi pay a 1 billion berry fee for escorting her to Alabasta. Vivi says her kingdom is in chaos and she probably can't pay. She explains that she learned years ago that Baroque Works has been manipulating Alabasta to overthrow her father. She asked Igaram to help her infiltrate the group and discover the leader's identity. Vivi hesitates to say the boss's name because it puts their life in danger, but she accidentally reveals it. Mr. Zero is Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. The Unluckies appear quietly, draw wanted sketches of Luffy, Zoro, and Nami, and fly away. Nami is furious that Vivi exposed them by mistake. Vivi apologizes repeatedly, but Nami stays angry. Luffy and Zoro, however, are excited that a warlord is after them. Nami complains that the Grand Line has only brought them trouble. Igaram returns dressed like Vivi, carrying 3 dummies that look like the Straw Hats. He says he will act as a decoy and sail straight to Alabasta using Vivi's eternal pose. Vivi should instead travel with the Straw Hats, island by island, so Baroque Works cannot track her easily. He adds that before Crocodile became a warlord, he had an 80 million berry bounty. Luffy accepts the challenge immediately. Moments after Igaram leaves, his ship explodes in a huge blast. Furious, Luffy runs back to the Mary to set sail. Nami comforts Vivi, promising they will fight Baroque Works and protect her. Luffy drags Sanji and Usopp to the ship. Karoo is already waiting. A mysterious woman appears. Miss All Sunday, Crocodile's partner. She claims she blew up Igaram's ship. Luffy asks who she is. She says she's curious about Vivi's mission, but calls it foolish. She disarms the crew instantly. Sanji falls for her beauty. She shows Nami that the log pose points to Little Garden and gives Vivi an eternal pose for safe travel. Vivi hesitates. Luffy crushes the pose, refusing an outsider to decide their path, and angrily tells her off. Miss All Sunday laughs, liking his spirit, and leaves on a giant sea turtle. Vivi collapses. The crew explains everything to Usopp and Sanji. Miss All Sunday wonders how the Straw Hats will handle Little Garden. A jungle, tiger, and giant footprint are shown. Aboard the Mary, Luffy asks Vivi, and she explains that the last sea had strange magnetic forces. She warns them not to underestimate the Grand Line. Vivi gets annoyed because the crew isn't serious, until a huge dolphin attacks the ship. The Straw Hats react instantly, showing they can handle danger. Soon they spot the foggy island of Little Garden. The crew gets excited for their second Grand Line stop. Meanwhile, Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week enjoy tea, and discussing Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week, 5 and Miss Valentine's defeat. Mr. 3 calls Mr. 5 an overconfident fool, and promises to show the Straw Hats the true terror of Baroque Works. As the crew approaches Little Garden, Sanji is attacked by a giant bird. A huge tiger appears beside the ship but collapses, bleeding heavily. Luffy says they should explore the island, and Vivi joins him because she wants to clear her mind. Zoro goes for a walk, and Sanji tells him to bring back anything edible. They argue and rush to compete for the bigger catch. Hearing strange sounds, Nami remembers something about the island and checks her books. Luffy and Vivi find a squid-like shellfish as huge footsteps approach. Sanji almost gets eaten by a T-Rex, while Zoro runs into a Triceratops, wondering if it's edible. Luffy and Vivi meet a Brachiosaurus, and Vivi realizes the island is untouched because nothing leaves the Grand Line, keeping its ecosystem frozen in time. As Nami explains the creatures to Usopp, a giant silhouette appears. Nami and Usopp panic at a massive figure approaching the Going Merry. The giant asks for alcohol. Nami says they only have cooking and medical alcohol. Suddenly, a T-Rex bites him from behind. The giant cuts off its head and introduces himself as Brogy, claiming to be Elbaf's strongest warrior. He calls Nami and Usopp his guests, but they are so terrified they pretend to be dead. Meanwhile, Luffy and Vivi explore. Luffy climbs the Brachiosaurus but is swallowed. A giant slices the dinosaur's neck, catches him, and introduces himself as Dory, another Elbaf warrior, inviting them to his home. Brogy brings Nami and Usopp to his place and cooks dinosaur meat, but they fear he will eat them and try to escape. After being chased by bigger predators, they end up right back at Brogy's feet. Dory explains to Luffy, Vivi, and Karoo that he and Brogy have been dueling for 100 years, fighting whenever the central volcano erupts. In the jungle, Mr. 3, Mr. 5, and Miss Valentine prepare to claim the giant's bounties. Usopp admires Brogy's strength and calls him master. After another draw, Brogy gives Dory 2 barrels of alcohol taken from Nami and Usopp. Dory drinks one, but it explodes inside him, and he blames the Straw Hats. Luffy has to fight the weakened Dory and knocks him out. When the volcano erupts again, Dory gets up and goes to fight, even injured. He traps Luffy under a huge rock so he won't interfere. Dory and Brogy clash again. Zoro finds Nami in the forest and senses something is wrong. Nami finds Luffy but is attacked right away. Usopp runs in fear until he meets Vivi and Luffy. Vivi guesses Baroque Works caused the explosion and the disappearance. Mr. 3's plan works. Brogy unknowingly defeats Dory. Heartbroken, Brogy cries, but Mr. 3 traps his legs in wax. Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine bring Karoo to Dory's home and beat him while he's down. They quickly defeat Usopp and Vivi. After beating Luffy again, Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine take Vivi to the duel site, where Mr. 3 is covering Brogy in even more wax. Then he builds a giant cake-shaped stand and traps Vivi, Nami, and Zoro on top. adding spinning candles that will slowly turn them into wax statues. He proudly explains how he rigged the duel. Broggy gets furious and tries to break free, but Mr. 5 knocks him out again, and Mr. 3 strengthens the wax. Meanwhile, Karoo digs Luffy out from under the rock. Luffy, Karoo, and Usopp arrive as Zoro tries to cut off his own legs to escape. Mr. 3 decides to fight Luffy, while Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine handle Usopp and Karoo. He traps Luffy's feet in wax, but Luffy breaks part of the structure holding his friends. The wax breaks off his legs, but the statues harden even faster. Luffy tries again to destroy the giant candle service set, but Mr. 3 blocks him with candle walls. Usopp tries to blow it up with an exploding star, but Mr. 5 eats it with no problem. Luffy almost beats Mr. 3, but Miss Golden Week uses her colors trap to hypnotize him. She paints a mark that makes Luffy betray his friends. Vivi tricks him off the paint, but Miss Golden Week draws another symbol on his back, making him laugh helplessly. Usopp finds Luffy calmly drinking tea with Miss Golden Week, while the others are nearly fully waxed, burning. Usopp burns the shirt she painted on him, freeing Luffy from hypnosis. Luffy tries to destroy the pedestal, but Mr. 3 comes back in a huge wax suit to fight him. Usopp is blasted by Mr. 5 but still manages to make Karoo run around an oil-soaked rope to ignite it. Luffy uses Mr. 3's flaming hair to set it ablaze, destroying the structure and freeing Zoro, Nami, and Vivi. As they break free from the flames, Miss Valentine is defeated. Zoro finishes Mr. 5. Luffy and Karoo chase and defeat Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week. Meanwhile, Sanji finds Mr. 3's hideout and answers a Denden Mushi from Mr. Zero. Pretending to be Mr. 3, he claims Vivi and the crew are dead. The Unluckies deliver an eternal pose to Alabasta, attack Sanji, but he defeats them. Crocodile orders Mr. 3 to return to Alabasta, and after the call, tells Miss All Sunday to send Mr. 2 to eliminate him. Broggy cries over Dory's death, but Dory wakes. He explains Broggy's axe only knocked him out. Using the eternal pose, the Straw Hats set sail. Broggy and Dory help them by killing a giant predator trying to eat the Going Merry. They remember the reason for their duel. Long ago, after each killed a Sea King, a little girl asked which one was bigger. They came to Little Garden to settle it and stayed for a century. On the Merry, Usopp dreams about visiting Elbaf someday, and Luffy happily agrees, and they dance until they almost fall overboard. Meanwhile, Nami hands Vivi the eternal pose. Vivi remembers she must survive to save Alabasta. Sanji comforts them while Luffy, Usopp, and Karoo drool over food, which he scolds them for. Zoro trains alone, ashamed he couldn't save everyone during the candle trap. Elsewhere, Mr. Tubonkure receives a departure alert. Back on the Merry, Nami collapses from her condition. She pretends she's fine, but everyone is worried. Nami warns Zoro of a strange wind. He orders a course change, avoiding a cyclone and falling snow. Nami rests while Vivi tends to her. Zoro spots a man on the water. Wapol pirates attack the Merry. Their captain Wapol eats a meat skewer, stick and all, then his sword, revealing he ate the Munch Munch fruit, letting him eat anything. Luffy gets angry when Wapol eats part of the ship and fights him. The crew joins except Usopp. Luffy blasts Wapol away with Gomu Gomu no rocket. A quick flashback shows a Smoker and Tashigi overhear the call between Sanji and Crocodile. They decide to head for Alabasta. On the Merry, Luffy tries to cheer Nami but fails. The crew anchors for the night. Nami wakes, sees her friends asleep, smiles, and goes back to sleep. Sanji keeps watch. Vivi explains the cold signals an island is close. Sanji spots land. They reach Drum Island, but villagers threaten them. Dalton orders them to leave. A villager fires at Sanji but misses. Sanji prepares to fight, but Vivi steps in and is shot. Luffy, furious, prepares to attack, but Vivi hugs him, telling him a captain shouldn't solve everything with fighting. Luffy calms down and apologizes. Dalton understands and invites them to follow him. Vivi smiles and Luffy compliments her. They walk with Dalton, encountering a hiking bear. Usopp suggests playing dead and everyone quietly passes. On the Going Merry, Zoro says his legs are healed. Shirtless, he trains while Karoo watches. Dalton introduces Bighorn and sends non-guards home. Dalton invites the crew to rest at his house. Nami lies in bed while Vivi covers her. Dalton introduces himself as security squad captain. He feels he's seen Vivi before. Vivi nervously changes the topic, asking about Nami's fever. Dalton explains the Drum Rockies and mentions Dr. Kuroha at the old drum castle. Luffy decides to climb the mountain with Nami on his back. Nami agrees. Sanji joins. Dalton warns them to avoid the main path because of Lapons. After they leave, Usopp and Vivi watch them go. Dalton stays with them and explains Drum Island's history. The island was famous for doctors until 5 months ago when pirates attacked. Their captain called himself Blackbeard. Some thought the kingdom's fall was deserved because of the corrupt king, Wapol. Luffy and Sanji run through the snow as a Lapon attacks. Sanji kicks it away. Soon a large herd blocks their path. Meanwhile, Wapol sees Drum Island from his ship and warns his crew. Sanji tells Luffy not to fight the Lapon because Nami would be affected and uses Flanche Shoot to knock one away. Elsewhere, Kureha operates on a sick boy, gives him medicine and charges a huge fee, but gives a tiny discount when thanked. Dalton explains how Walpole limited doctors and created the Ishii 20, making Vivi angry. Dalton realizes Vivi is the princess. At the coast, Walpole's pirates attack the Watchmen. Walpole rides Robson while Chess rebuilds the drum castle symbol. Usopp learns the doctor went to Castella. An injured Watchman reports Walpole to Dalton. Luffy and Sanji are caught in a Lapon-triggered avalanche. They climb a cliff, but the snow still hits them. Villagers prepare for Walpole's arrival. Walpole eats buildings as he marches. Kuromaru says the Straw Hats are looking for a doctor. Dalton reaches Bighorn and attacks Walpole, but the Ishii 20 heal him. Dalton pleads, but Dalton transforms into Bison Human. Chess and Kuromaru comment on each other. Luffy continues to the mountain but is stopped by Walpole's men. The Lapon he helped protects him, letting Luffy escape. They find Zoro buried in snow. Walpole's men defeat the Lapons. Zoro, Vivi, and Usopp reach Bighorn and see chaos. Zoro recognizes the soldiers, defeats them, and takes their warm coats and swords. Villagers thank Zoro and dig for Dalton. Usopp helps. After a long struggle, Luffy reaches the top. Chopper brings them inside. Kureha and Chopper treat the crew. Chopper identifies Nami's illness as a Keisei bite. Nami wakes and meets Chopper, who is nervous and clumsy. Kureha explains the bite could have killed her in 2 days. Chopper watches over Luffy and Sanji. Luffy wakes hungry, scares Chopper, and they chase him until they see Nami. Kureha explains Chopper is a reindeer who ate the Hito Hito no Mi, letting him talk and walk like a human. Chopper transforms into a strong form to escape. Kureha says she raised him in medicine. Walpole and his men search for Luffy. Everyone digs for Dalton, who is found without a pulse. Kureha tells Nami Chopper's sad past. He was born with a blue nose, rejected by reindeer and humans, and even more after eating the devil fruit. Sanji and Luffy try to close a gate, but Chopper protects a bird nest. Sanji calls him a monster, making him run. Luffy likes him and wants him on the crew. In the lab, Luffy startles Chopper, but he catches falling glassware. Luffy tickles him and asks him to join, but Chopper runs. Sanji brings Nami food. Kureha enters, Sanji calls her Madam, and she kicks him. Luffy keeps chasing Chopper until Kureha hears the word Nakama and begins telling Hiruluk's story. Years ago, Hiruluk escaped soldiers during the doctor hunt. He treated a sick man with a strange frog medicine that turned him green. Soldiers came and Hiruluk fled, briefly meeting Kureha, then running into injured Chopper. Chopper attacked Hiruluk, but he proved he meant no harm. Chopper woke, ate bread, and cried. After 3 days, Chopper spoke for the first time. They visited villages but were chased away. After a small fight, Hiruluk gave Chopper a hat and told a story about miracles and cherry blossoms. One day, Hiruluk forced Chopper out and asked Kureha how long he had left. 10 days. He wanted to show Chopper that anything is possible. Chopper remembers soldiers talking about a miraculous mushroom. He searched Hiruluk's books and went to find it. He met a reindeer herd. One headbutted him, but he fought back. He found the mushroom but was badly beaten. He returned to Hiruluk with a broken leg and swollen eye. Hiruluk hugged him, calling him kind-hearted, cooked the mushroom, and sent Chopper to rest. Kureha arrived, revealed the mushroom was poisonous, and taught Chopper that kindness alone isn't enough. Knowledge is needed. Chopper cried. Hiruluk reached the castle, but Walpole revealed it was a trap. Chopper ran up the mountain too late. Hiruluk blew himself up. Dalton stopped Chopper, saying he would die too, and vowed to carry on Hiruluk's will before being imprisoned. Back in the present, Luffy spots Walpole and his crew. Chopper informs Kureha. Chess points out Drum Castle's flag. Luffy attacks Walpole with a Gomu Gomu no pistol, sending him flying, but his subordinates catch him. Luffy enters the castle to find warm clothes, while Sanji protects Kureha from afros thrown by Kuromarimo. The afros stick and catch fire when Chess shoots arrows. Luffy borrows Nami's jacket and attacks Walpole. Walpole becomes Baku Baku Factory, eats Chess and Kuromarimo, then releases them and shoots Hiruluk's Jolly Roger. Luffy catches and raises the flag, charging Walpole and his subordinates. Chopper takes a rumble ball, fights Chess Marimo, dodges arrows, and smashes hammers using Brain Point. Luffy watches. Walpole sneaks into Drum Castle. The Ishii 20 revive Dalton, and he is helped by Usopp and Zoro toward the mountain. Inside, Chopper tells Kureha that Luffy calls him a friend. Nami grabs a coat to escape. Walpole chases her and tries to eat her, but Luffy stops him. Nami scolds Luffy for damaging her jacket. Walpole looks for the armory to eat its weapons, but finds the key missing, running up the stairs with Luffy following. At the castle dome, Walpole shows the Royal Drum Crown 7-shot Blick Blick cannon, but finds it empty. Only snowbirds fly out. Outside, everyone watch via the ropeway. Dalton carries dynamite, ready to destroy the castle if needed. Luffy catches Wapol's attack with his rubber fingers and fires him upward with Gomu Gomu no Ogon, leaving Hiriluk's flag waving on the castle. Luffy reunites with Zoro, Usopp, Vivi, and Dalton. Chopper hides behind a tree, recognized by Dalton for his bravery. Villagers call him a monster, but Luffy declares him a new crewmate. Luffy chases him to officially join. Kureha treats the wounded and negotiates the armory key with Nami. Chopper hesitates but finally joins the Straw Hats, moved by Luffy's acceptance. Chopper rushes to tell Kureha, but she immediately starts yelling at him, asking how he could even think of leaving. She insists he could never want to be a pirate. He's just a reindeer and a doctor. He can't abandon his duties. Kureha throws weapons at him, and Chopper flees with Kureha in hot pursuit. Using Kureha's sleigh, Chopper carries the Straw Hats down the ropeway, astonishing the villagers along the way. Kureha confides in Dalton that she hates saying goodbye, her eyes welling with tears. Hiriluk's dream finally comes true. As the villagers fire the cannons, the snow turns pink, like falling sakura petals. Chopper and the villagers are deeply moved to tears. On the Going Merry, the crew enjoys Drum Island's Sakura effect. Luffy entertains everyone, and Chopper warms up to his new friends. He talks to animals, and Nami notes his medical skills from Kureha. The crew teases him, but he begins to enjoy being part of the group. Back on Drum Island, Kureha and Dalton talk about the kingdom's future. Dalton recalls Vivi's father, King Cobra, and Wapol's past misdeeds, respecting Vivi's dignity. The Ishi-20 pledge loyalty to Dalton. A messenger delivers Luffy's wanted poster to Dalton. A man named Ace asks them to tell Luffy if he comes this way, he will be waiting for him in Alabasta for 10 days. Kureha remarks that the will of D lives on. The next day, Chopper sits at the bar with Luffy, amazed by the ocean. A giant bird swoops down. Luffy plays with it and then gives it to Sanji as food. Nami reminds everyone they are heading to Alabasta. The crew explains their mission: return Vivi to stop Crocodile's coup. Vivi describes Baroque Works hierarchy: 5 officer-agent pairs, 8 frontier agents, and thousands of subordinates. Luffy is excited to fight Crocodile. Meanwhile, Mr. 2 punishes the navigator for failing to kill Mr. 3. Crocodile and Miss All Sunday discuss the threat to Alabasta. Later, Luffy and Usopp save Mr. 2 from drowning. While waiting for his ship, he shows his main Know My Power, which lets him copy anyone's face he touches. Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper are amazed, and Vivi notices he has copied her father. Later, Mr. 2's ship arrives, showing he is a Baroque Works officer. To avoid confusion, the crew wraps bandages around their arms so he cannot copy them. Arriving at Alabasta, Nami urges good behavior, but Luffy runs off to find food. Vivi explains she plans to go to Yuba, where the rebel army is, but the only way is across the desert. At the restaurant, the young man from earlier sits at a plate of food. Everyone thinks he is dead from a venomous bite, but he wakes, wipes his face, and keeps eating. After dozing again, he asks Yoshimoto about Luffy. Smoker arrives, notices the commotion, and identifies the man as Portgas D. Ace, 2nd Division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, surprising everyone. Ace explains he is searching for his brother, Luffy. Luffy runs through Nanohana following food smells. Smoker plans to capture Ace but focuses on Luffy instead. Using Gomu Gomu no Rocket, Luffy smashes the restaurant and surrounding walls to get food. He eats quickly as Ace apologizes to a family for the mess. Smoker recognizes Luffy from Logetown and chases him. Luffy, knowing he cannot beat Smoker alone, searches for his crew while Smoker orders Tashigi to track the Straw Hats. Luffy arrives to everyone with Smoker close behind. Ace blocks Smoker's attack with Hyken, showing he has eaten the Mera Mera no Mi, the flame fruit. Ace tells Luffy to run while he holds off Smoker. Luffy announces to his crew that Ace is his brother, shocking them. The crew escapes to the Going Merry as Ace fights Smoker. Nami asks about Ace's relation to Luffy, and he confirms it. They reach the ship and load supplies, but Luffy is missing. Luffy waits in an alley, unsure where the crew went. Ace greets him from a roof and invites Luffy and the crew to join the Whitebeard Pirates, but Luffy refuses. On Smoker's ship, Mr. 11 is tied to the mast. Billions try to get promoted by capturing Ace, but when Mr. 11 asks to be untied, they shoot him instead. They hear Ace is in town and see a chance for promotion. Luffy and Ace look for the crew, unaware Billions surround them. A fight breaks out, but Luffy defeats the leader with Gomu Gomu no Bazooka. Spotting the ship, Luffy stretches his arms to reach it. Ace arrives in his boat and destroys 5 approaching ships with Hyken attacks. Smoker questions Tashigi about Vivi, but concludes she seems friendly with the Straw Hats. He senses something big is coming. On the Going Merry, Usopp, Luffy, and Chopper toast to Ace joining them, but he declines, saying he seeks Blackbeard for killing a crewmate. Nami notes they are going to Yuba, the same place as Ace. Vivi explains the route, and they all toast together. On shore, Vivi gives Karoo a letter for his father about Baroque Works plans. Karoo leaves quickly to deliver it. On the ship, Ace warns Zoro that Crocodile may have bigger plans. The crew reaches the desert. Chopper notes the heat, and Nami says it is over 50 degrees Celsius. Vivi warns that skin exposed to the sun will burn. Sanji complains about their clothes but follows. Zoro spots kung fu dugongs in the water. Luffy mistakes them for seals, fights them, and learns they can't cross the desert. They say goodbye. At Eromeru, Vivi explains it is now a ghost town. Dance powder caused droughts called the King's Miracle. Luffy destroys a building in anger, eager to continue. Later, he makes the crew play rock, paper, hami to decide who carries equipment. At the rocks, Luffy finds moaning birds and rushes to Chopper for help. Returning, they find Waragi birds have stolen their things. Luffy chases the birds, and carnivorous plants swallow him briefly. He saves a camel named Matsu, who carries Nami and Vivi through the desert. The crew continues. On the way to Yuba Oasis, Vivi plans to meet the rebel army. Luffy, Usopp, and Sanji fight over water. Nami asks Vivi about the rebels. Vivi tells events from 11 years ago. Young Koza confronted King Cobra over a drought. Todo intervened, and the king promised to help. Vivi sees Koza running, and later he becomes the Suna clan's assistant leader, forming a close bond with her family. Koza protects Vivi from kidnappers, gets injured, and praised by Cobra. He leaves to help build Yuba, telling Vivi to be a great princess. Vivi explains to Nami that Koza leads the rebel army. Before leaving, Ace gives Luffy a paper, promising to meet next at the Pirates Summit. Luffy treasures it, and Nami sews it into his hat. Vivi notes that Yuba is just beyond a distant rock. In Crocodile's lair, he and Miss All Sunday discuss their plan. She says everything is ready and they can act in 2 days. Crocodile is happy and mentions agents from Spider Cafe will meet them in Rain Base. At Spider Cafe, the agents gather, but Mr. 1 is missing. The others want to leave. Mr. 2 and his men dance, but Mr. 1 bursts through the wall, knocking over one of them. A fight starts, but Miss Doublefinger stops it, saying they must go to Rain Base to meet the boss. They leave in a carriage. Luffy and the crew arrive at Yuba, now ruined by a sandstorm. The town is empty. The only resident is the founder Todo, who recognizes Vivi. She realizes he is the same man from her childhood. His son leads the rebel army. Todo is loyal to the crown and regrets his son's rebellion. Vivi and Todo share a strong bond. The group stays in Yuba overnight. Todo tells how prosperous the town once was before the drought. Luffy learns that Todo was tasked by Cobra to watch the land and finds a way to stop the sandstorm. At Rain Base, the officer agents learn their leader is Mr. Zero, Crocodile, and that they must overthrow Alabasta. Mr. 3 reports the Straw Hats are alive. Crocodile punishes him by dropping him into a banana wani pit. Miss All Sunday orders the rebel army to eliminate everyone there. The Straw Hats head to Katareya, but Luffy stops them. He tells Vivi his plan to defeat Crocodile and calls her plan to stop the rebellion naive. They argue, but Vivi says she will risk herself only. Luffy urges her to trust friends and fight together. Moved to tears, Vivi agrees and shows a map marking Alubarna, Katoria, and Rain Base, the warlord's base a day away. On the way, Usopp asks for water, but Luffy refuses since Todo filled it all night. At the rebel army base in Katareya, a boy wants to fight with the rebels, but Koza refuses, explaining that most fight only out of duty. He plans to gather weapons from all rebel towns before attacking Alubarna. In Alubarna, Chaka urges King Cobra to act against the rebels. Cobra refuses, recalling the dance powder incident, and wants to find who is behind it first. While Chaka and Pell discuss, the palace guard informs them that Karoo has returned. They rush to see Karoo and find Cobra reading the letter Vivi wrote, informing him that Crocodile is who is trying to destroy Alabasta. Preparations start. Chaka organizes the war council. Pell scouts ahead. Meanwhile, Luffy's group reaches Rain Base and tries to hide, but Luffy and Usopp loudly enter a bar next to Smoker and Tashigi. They flee, chased by Marines, splitting up to regroup at Rain Dinner's casino. Chopper, returning from the restroom, notices everyone has separated. Vivi and Zoro are chased, but Zoro lets her go ahead. They all meet at Rain Dinners, with Zoro and Luffy avoiding Smoker. Inside the casino, Crocodile and Miss All Sunday learn they are there. Luffy's group notices Vivi is missing, and Miss All Sunday sends everyone to the VIP room. A trapdoor drops Luffy's group and Smoker into a prison cell. In the cell, Luffy feels weak. Smoker hits him with his Sea Stone Jitta, stopping his Devil Fruit powers. As Zoro is about to fight, Crocodile interrupts, telling them to cooperate until a guest arrives. Outside, Vivi fights Baroque Works agents but is saved by Pell. Miss All Sunday appears, overpowers both, and takes Vivi to the casino. Inside, Vivi attacks Crocodile, but he is untouchable, having eaten the Suna Suna no Mi, sand fruit. He tells her to sit as the party starts. Operation Utopia, the plan to take over Alabasta, begins. Crocodile explains his plan. The king is kidnapped and replaced by Mr. 2, who orders Nanohana destroyed. Koza intervenes but is wounded. Mr. 1 and Miss Doublefinger crash into Nanohana on a pirate ship. Citizens flee, the royal army burns the city, and the rebels are blamed. Koza leads his forces forward, finding an armory ship, calling it Divine Guidance. At the palace, Chaka is alarmed. The Straw Hats stay imprisoned. Crocodile taunts Vivi with a key, but it falls and is eaten by a banana wani. Crocodile gives them 1 hour as water fills the cell. Crocodile gets a call from Sanji. Vivi leaves to get help, while the casino bridge collapses to block Baroque Works. Chopper distracts Crocodile as Sanji frees the crew. Smoker explains Miss All Sunday's long-standing bounty. Sanji fights Banana Gators to recover the key. Mr. 3 emerges from an alligator, giving the Straw Hats an idea to escape. Crocodile and Miss All Sunday return to find the cell empty. Luffy tells Zoro to save Smoker, and Smoker then allows the crew to escape. They flee east while Smoker calls off the chase and sends reinforcements from nearby marine warships to Alabasta. Chopper and Matsuge ride a giant crab, following Nami's perfume. Matsuge is friends with many animals, including the crab. The Straw Hats head toward Alubarna. Crocodile's hook grabs Vivi and pulls her away. Luffy quickly switches places with her and follows the hook to Crocodile. Before fighting, he tells the others to go straight to Alubarna and take Vivi home. Luffy promises to meet them there and faces Crocodile and Miss All Sunday. Luffy praises Vivi's selflessness. Crocodile mocks her belief and asks if Luffy agrees. He does, but says he will stop Crocodile as Vivi's friend. Crocodile threatens him and calls Miss All Sunday by her real name, Nico Robin, who leaves claiming she is going to Alubarna. Crocodile sets a 3-minute timer and begins the fight. Luffy attacks, but Crocodile turns to sand to avoid it. Luffy's attacks pass through him until a direct punch enrages Crocodile. Crocodile counters with Desert Spada and other sand attacks. Luffy drinks water from Yuba to recover, then attacks Crocodile's head with Gomu Gomu no Baku Baku. Crocodile prepares Sable Sandstorm to destroy Yuba. Luffy is pierced by his hook. Crocodile throws Luffy into quicksand and heads to Alubarna. Meanwhile, Smoker orders Tashigi to decide whether to follow the Straw Hats or help the Royal Army. The Straw Hats to cross a river to Alubarna. Hami runs on water, encouraged by Nami's dancing. Halfway across, he sinks but is saved from a sea monster by the Kung Fu Dugongs, who follow Luffy's orders. They reach shore and see Karoo and the super spot-built duck troops approaching. Luffy struggles in the quicksand, but Nico Robin saves him with her Hana Hana no Mi powers, returning his hat. Pell, still injured, tells Robin to help Luffy while she leaves with Vivi. Luffy, weak and needing meat, rides with Pell toward Alubarna. At the palace, the royal guards prepare for battle. Igaram is still alive. Luffy, despite injuries, wants Crocodile to pay for his actions. The rebel army marches toward Alubarna. Baroque Works elites spot Vivi and the Straw Hats approaching on ducks. The Straw Hats split into groups, making it hard for enemies to target them. Vivi and Karoo stay outside Alubarna to stop the rebel and royal armies from fighting. Koza sees them but thinks he is imagining things. A cannon fires early, creating chaos. Vivi is knocked down but saved by Karoo, who is trampled. Vivi cries and vows to stop the conflict. Usopp, disguised on a horse, is actually Mr. 2. Vivi tests him with the crew's bandage signal and confirms he is an enemy. Sanji wakes Usopp and Matsuge after a flashback shows how they used bandages for identification. Sanji fights through the rebel and royal army to reach Vivi, saying he fights only for the ladies. Chopper and Usopp fight Miss Merry Christmas and Mr. 4 using tricks and Mr. 4's dog Lasso. Usopp refuses to believe Luffy is dead, and together they defeat their enemies. Sanji encounters Mr. 2 and quickly overpowers him at first. However, Mr. 2 uses his ability to change his face into Nami's, causing Sanji to hesitate. When Sanji is about to strike, Sanji says there is something on Mr. 2's face. As Mr. 2 touches it, he changes back to his real face and Sanji defeats him. Meanwhile, Zoro and Nami face Mr. 1 and Miss Doublefinger. Nami tries to escape but is chased and studies Usopp's instructions for the climb attack. As she learns the weapon's abilities, she uses Mirage Tempo to create illusions and prepare for a real fight. Crocodile has nailed Cobra to the palace walls. Vivi and Chaka cannot stop him. He demands the location of Pluton, a legendary weapon. Cobra is shocked and says he doesn't know if it exists. Crocodile admits he cannot fully confirm it either, but reveals a backup plan. A bomb is planted in the palace square, set to explode. Crocodile asks Cobra about the poneglyph. Cobra agrees to go with him. Enraged, Chaka prepares to attack Crocodile. Outside Alubarna, Sanji meets Usopp and Chopper, returns Usopp's goggles, and they head to the palace to help Vivi. Meanwhile, Nami injured and bleeding, she creates a thundercloud and shocks her. When Miss Doublefinger attacks again, Nami uses Mirage Tempo to make illusions and hit her from behind. Remembering Tornado Tempo is a one-time move, she uses it despite her hurt leg, trapping Miss Doublefinger in a tornado and throwing her through buildings, winning the fight. Elsewhere, Zoro fights Mr. One. He realizes Mr. One's body is as hard as steel, and ordinary attacks cannot cut him. Zoro recalls his mentor's words. He adapts, senses the rhythm around him, locates his sword, cuts through a rock, and defeats Mr. One with a single sword strike. Exhausted, he worries if everyone else is safe. Tsumagari guards charge into the palace to save Cobra. He tells them not to risk their lives, but they insist. Crocodile offers to spare them if they leave, but they refuse. They drink hero water to gain strength, attack Crocodile, but he easily dodges. The guards collapse and die, enraging Chaka, who attacks Crocodile with his Inu Inu no Mi model jackal powers, but cannot hit him. Sanji, Chopper, and Usopp rush to the palace. Usopp cries thinking Luffy is dead while Chopper reassures him. Sanji smiles and asks if they really believed it. They insist Luffy is alive. Vivi finds Chaka bloodied, and a figure calls her. In Palace Square, 25 minutes remain until Crocodile's bomb explodes. Koza sees the dead Tsumagari guards, Chaka, Cobra nailed to the palace wall, and Crocodile controlling everything. Miss All Sunday mocks Koza, telling him to accept the worst. Koza realizes his father was right about Cobra and demands the truth about Alabasta's drought. Crocodile admits he and Baroque Works caused all the suffering Koza blamed on Cobra. Cobra tells Koza to save as many citizens as possible, and Chaka warns him about the bomb. Crocodile strikes Chaka, seemingly killing him. Koza runs toward Palace Square, but Vivi pulls him down, urging him to think carefully. She explains warning everyone about the bomb would cause panic and stopping the rebellion is the priority. Crocodile attacks Vivi, but Chaka blocks him, giving them time to escape. Vivi commands the royal army to surrender. Koza orders the army to stop fighting and lowers his weapon. The rebel army sees the white flags and stops attacking. However, Baroque Works agents disguised in the royal army shoot Koza multiple times. Crocodile creates a sandstorm, hiding the battlefield, letting infiltrators continue shooting and restarting the fight. Vivi and Koza try to stop the chaos, but their voices are drowned out. Chaka collapses from his wounds, and Cobra urges Vivi to run, but she refuses, determined to stop the bomb. Crocodile grabs her by the neck and hangs her over a cliff, mocking her for not warning the soldiers. Vivi insists she will never give up. Crocodile notes her 2-year spy work in Baroque Works and drops her off the cliff. Luffy flies on Pell, catching Vivi before she hits the ground. She tells them about the bomb. The crew regroups. Luffy apologizes for losing to Crocodile and promises not to lose again, asking the others to handle other matters while he goes to fight Crocodile. Luffy punches Crocodile, making him bleed, and attacks again, finding his weakness. Water stops him from turning to sand. Crocodile tries to dehydrate Luffy's arm, but Luffy drinks water from a barrel, calling himself Water Luffy. He squirts water at Crocodile, letting his attacks hit. Miss All Sunday removes the stakes, impaling Cobra, and Dima Bianchi lead her to the Poneglyph. Crocodile tells her to go. As they leave, Crocodile uses ground secco to dry the area, turning it into a desert. Luffy sprays water at him, but Crocodile absorbs it and keeps draining moisture from the palace. With 8 minutes left until the explosion, the Straw Hats rush to find the cannon. Meanwhile, Cobra wonders if Robin is really Miss All Sunday, whose name was famous 20 years ago. On the way to the Poneglyph, they encounter Tashigi and Marines. Robin disables some with her powers, and a Marine recognizes her as the 8-year-old who earned a 79 million bounty for sinking 6 ships. Tashigi sends her men to Palace Square and stays to fight Robin, who easily defeats her. In the palace, the lawn has turned to sand. Crocodile sneaks on Luffy, grabs him by the neck, and absorbs all water from his body, leaving him dehydrated. Crocodile says Luffy lost again. However, water Luffy had sprayed on Crocodile falls back, reviving him. Luffy recovers and searches for them. Luffy meets Tashigi and asks which way Crocodile went. She points the way, scolding herself as he rushes off. Near the tomb, Luffy collapses from bleeding and falls asleep. Robin and Cobra find the Poneglyph. Crocodile reaches them and demands Robin read it. She reads Alabasta's history, not Pluton's location. Angered, Crocodile says she has been useful in Baroque Works for 4 years but must die for breaking her promise. Robin tries to attack him but fails. Cobra starts a timer that will destroy the tomb, planning to kill Crocodile and Robin to protect his country. Vivi injures her knee while searching for the bomb. She figures out where the bomb is and has Usopp call the rest of the Straw Hats. Luffy wakes up and starts looking for Crocodile. Crocodile tells Cobra he can turn the tombs stone to sand and bury them all. Vivi and Usopp are chased by Baroque Works agents and use a chalkboard to distract them. Luffy finds Crocodile, Cobra, and the badly hurt Robin. He demands Crocodile return Vivi's country and hits him twice. Using his own blood, Luffy stops Crocodile from turning into sand. Crocodile reveals his hook is filled with poison. Zoro finds Marines from Tashigi's group, who point him toward the city center. Vivi and Usopp keep running while Tashigi stops their pursuers. Nami and Chopper reach Vivi and Usopp with only 2 minutes left before the bomb explodes. Luffy faces Crocodile while Vivi searches for Pell, believing he may be the only one fast enough to stop the cannon. In the clock tower, Mr. Seven and Miss Father's Day stand guard. Nami then comes up with a plan using one of Usopp's devices. Working together, they launch her through the tower. With only seconds to spare, Vivi manages to cut the bomb's fuse. Luffy is poisoned by Crocodile's hook and starts going numb. Vivi realizes the cannon is also a timed bomb. Pell arrives, remembers his duty as the guardian of Alabasta, and flies the bomb far away. It explodes in the sky and he sacrifices himself. The shockwave hits the city, but the civil war continues. Vivi screams from the bell tower, begging everyone to stop. Nami tells the Straw Hats they must end the fight no matter what. Underground, the tomb collapses. Luffy gets up, shocking Crocodile. Luffy finally defeats Crocodile, smashing him through the ruins and into the air. The Straw Hats and Vivi see Crocodile fall, but the war still goes on. Then rain begins, for the first time in 3 years, helping calm everyone. Vivi's cries are finally heard, and the fighting stops. People are still angry about past events, but Chaka orders the royal army to stand down. Igaram appears with Kappa, who proves Baroque Works caused everything. The people lower their weapons. The Straw Hats meet King Cobra carrying the hurt but alive Luffy. Cobra explains Luffy carried both of them to safety and got an antidote for the poison, though he still needs more care. The Straw Hats prepare to return to the palace in secret. People gather around the defeated Crocodile as Tashigi and the Marines arrive. Tashigi says her men captured Baroque Works ships carrying dance powder, proving Crocodile's crimes. She removes his warlord title and arrests him, even though he is unconscious. Koza struggles with the rebellion's actions and Crocodile's betrayal. But Cobra tells everyone to move forward and help Alabasta recover. On the coast, Hina accuses Smoker of using dance powder. Smoker denies it and says he did not want to ruin Cobra's plan to save his kingdom. He orders Hina to take the ship and Crocodile to Marine headquarters. Meanwhile, Tashigi tells her Marines to ignore the Straw Hats. That evening, the Straw Hats return to the palace to rest. Vivi watches the rain while Igaram enters and speaks about Pell, honoring his sacrifice. The next day at the port, Tashigi delivers Crocodile to Smoker and apologizes for letting Luffy escape. Smoker ignores it and tells her to become stronger if she doubts herself. Marine headquarters calls, giving credit to Smoker and Tashigi for capturing Crocodile. Hina says the world government wants to hide the Straw Hats' role, but Smoker angrily rejects the promotions. Dr. Honka is amazed by Chopper's medical skills, even after her 40 years of experience. Vivi takes care of Luffy while Karoo rests. Sanji and Usopp walk through the city, proud of the people rebuilding. And Zoro trains by balancing boulders. In the palace library, Cobra lets Nami take any books she wants. Chaka and the guards block Marines searching for Luffy and Zoro. Luffy wakes up hungry and sees his straw hat on the next bed, not knowing how badly injured he was. Terracotta, the royal chef, arrives to prepare a banquet for Luffy. She brings fruit, which he eats instantly. The Straw Hats enjoy a lively feast. Later, Cobra invites the Straw Hats to the baths. The women wash on one side while Nami and Vivi chat. The men try to peek, but Nami's happiness punch stops them. Nami says they should leave Alabasta that evening because Marines are probably looking for them. Cobra bows to the Straw Hats, thanking them as both a king and a father for saving Vivi. Nami and Vivi overhear him. That night, the Straw Hats prepare to leave. Luffy wants more food, but Zoro says they have to go. Chaka and Igaram receive new bounty posters. Luffy's is now 100 million berries, and Zoro's is 60 million berries. Igaram warns that Luffy cannot turn back after defeating a warlord. When he rushes to alert the Straw Hats, they have already left, leaving only Vivi behind. Vivi decides to go to the eastern harbor by 8 a.m., pondering whether to be a princess or a pirate. Earlier, Bon Kure contacts the Straw Hats via Den Den Mushi. He explains he moved the Going Merry to the upper Sandora River to protect it from the Marines and blocks all ports. The Straw Hats accept his help, wary but willing to trust him. Meanwhile, Marines Django and Fullbody attempt to intercept them. Usopp fires a cannon, destroying both their ships. Bon Kure helps the Straw Hats escape. distracting the Marines with his Okama disguise. Vivi begins her farewell speech about her travels with the Straw Hats. The people recognize her, and she meets the crew at the harbor. She announces she will stay behind, but asks that if they meet again, she be considered part of their family. To avoid incriminating her, the Straw Hats silently raise their left arms in a cross mark, which Vivi and Karoo mirror. Hina reports the escape to Smoker, who seems pleased. Cobra continues Vivi's speech to the kingdom, and Chaka mourns Pell's death. Back in Yuba, Toto laughs, knowing the Straw Hats' full role in saving Alabasta, and Pell stands at his own grave, alive and well. The Marines continue to attack the Going Merry. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji throw large pipes at the enemy ships, disabling them and making a quick escape. Smoker informs Tashigi of Luffy and Zoro's new bounties. The Straw Hats lament leaving Vivi behind, though Zoro jokes about it. The Alabasta Saga ends with Robin suddenly appearing, shocking the crew. She explains that Luffy forced her to keep living when she wanted to die, and now she joins the crew. She reveals her past as an archaeologist from age 8, her involvement in killing, and other jobs. Nami is convinced by Jules, Sanji by her being a woman, while Usopp, Luffy, and Chopper play with her powers. Only Zoro remains wary but is briefly disarmed by her cheerfulness. If you want more recaps like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what anime you want to see next.